Welcome to Mindfully with Tumishe, the podcast that invites you to explore mental health with honesty, compassion, and openness. Each week, your host, Tumishe Oladapokuku, shares personal stories and stories from people like you. Together, we'll confront mental health myths and build a space where imperfection isn't feared but embraced. From self-esteem struggles to relational conflicts, we're here to discuss it all, with guidance from experts and real raw stories that inspire healing. It's time to live mindfully. It's time to be compassionate with ourselves and each other. Mindfully with Tumishe, new episodes every week, available wherever you listen to podcasts or at blackimages.com.
Hello, mindful partners. I wonder what happens when you hear that. Hello, mindful partners. How is our partnership going? Are we still good? And I hope these conversations have been gentle enough to help you begin some difficult personal conversations with yourself. And thank you for trusting me. It's not easy to stick with someone narrating their life stories and connecting it with Bible stories week in, week out. And I do not take it for granted. The 10 minutes, the 20 minutes, the 5 minutes. I deeply appreciate you as a mindful partner. And I thank you for coming back always. Now, before we begin, you know what's coming. Let's check in with our bodies. Relax your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Soften your forehead. Notice the spaces around your eyes, the spaces in between your ears. Now, take in one deep, cleansing breath. Hold it and let it out slowly. Just one more of those. Breathing. Soften your shoulders and let it go. Good. Let's begin. So today, I want to talk about something I didn't have language for until recently. I had lived it, I had suffered through it, but I couldn't name it. And I need to tell you that when I cannot label or name something, it keeps my brain going. And sometimes when that happens, I keep trying to solve that, and this thing only needs to be understood. And the other way I could say it, okay, just for you to understand, when we cannot name something, we keep trying to solve only what needs to be understood. Some time ago, Akinla and I were having a conversation. You know him, Akinla Daudu, and we were talking. As we were talking, he said something. It was a phrase. It was ambiguous grief, or was it ambiguous loss? Dr. Pauline Boss describes it as a form of grief that lacks closure, the kind of grief where something is gone but never really leaves, or something is present but no longer feels available to you. And when I heard those words during that conversation, I felt something inside me quietly whisper, finally. Not because I had found an answer, but because I had found language. Around that same time, I found myself reading the book of Job. You already know what the Old Testament has become for me these days. Game of Thrones with prophets, epic cinema, family drama, political intrigue, and underneath all of it, very human beings asking very human questions. Of course, most of us know Job's stories and how it ends. He gets restored, his fortunes return, double the time. The beautiful ending. Wonderful. But can we stay in the middle for a while? Because I think that's where most of us actually live. Not at the beginning, not at the resolution, but somewhere in between. And that's where Uncle Job sits. Everything he thought was stable, gone. His wife cannot understand why he keeps holding on. His friends arrive, and each one has a theory, a thesis, an explanation. Everyone has certainty, except the man actually living through it. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. People explaining your pain better than they understand your experiences. Sometimes they do mean well, sometimes they do not. And either way, you're still the one carrying the weight. So, what did I do? I sat with Job. I realized something. I wasn't reading his story. I realized that I was sitting beside him, not because our circumstances were the same, definitely not, but because our questions were. This last hypermanic episode I experienced lasted longer than most, for almost 5 weeks. Usually, I can identify what triggered it. Usually, I can work backwards, and usually I can close the loop. This time, nothing. And for someone whose mind likes to make sense of the things, that was absolute torture. My mind is beautifully complicated. It notices patterns, it asks questions, it searches for meaning. Sometimes, honestly, that's a gift. I love it. I truly do. But sometimes it's extremely exhausting to try to find patterns in things that probably don't have patterns, in relationships that probably don't have any patterns, or in conversations that are just simple. Ask my friends. It can be very exhausting because if there is no answer, my mind keeps searching. I remember sitting alone in my room asking myself, what did I miss? What did I do wrong? What triggered this? After years of therapy, all the things I had learned, years of showing up, why did this one pull me under so much? Why couldn't I find meaning and come out of this faster? Then something unexpected happened. It wasn't today's Tumishe speaking anymore. It wasn't Tumishe Kuku speaking anymore. It was another voice. A younger voice. A younger me. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've heard me say that when life becomes really difficult, I often return to my little girl. She usually helps me find my way home. What I haven't told you, though, is the age of the little girl I ask to help me find answers. That Tumishe was the 2 to 5 year old one. I have a friend who, whenever I post my childhood photo, she would say, "You were a happy child, Sha." And she's not wrong. Not this time. This time, I was reintroduced to Tumishe. She was between 6 and 15, and she had something to say. She said, "Tumishe Kuku, I know you understand. Tumishe Kuku, I know you've done the work and you're doing the work. I know you've gone to therapy. I know you're trying to become a better version of your story. But I don't understand. And until you see me, I go nowhere." Oh, I cried. I cried. Not because I suddenly understood everything, no, but because for the first time, I realized she wasn't asking me to fix her. She was asking me to acknowledge her. So what did I do? I started writing to her and speaking to her. Not letters or speeches of apology, but letters and speeches of recognition. I acknowledged her courage. I acknowledged the masks she wore just to survive. I acknowledged the loneliness she carried. Oh, was she lonely? I acknowledged that she did the best she could with what she knew and what she had. And something remarkable began to happen. No, the suffering didn't disappear overnight, and it still hasn't disappeared, but it softened. Because she was finally seen. She had finally been heard and not explained away like nothing happened. And maybe that's what Uncle Job needed to. Not an explanation, not a sermon, not another theory, just space to bring his questions honestly. And eventually, of course, Job gets his audience with God. He asks for answers instead of answers that will bring closure. He receives perspective. And this perspective I usually term the ultimate showdown between God and any human, but it was perspective. If you want, you can experience that encounter in Job 38 to 42, because there was no neat explanation, there was no tidy conclusion, just an encounter. And maybe for Job, that encounter became the beginning of a different kind of peace that led to one of the most profound responses in the whole story, at least for me. When Job says, "Hear, and I will speak. I will question you, and you will make it known to me. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes sees you." Oh, that's what perspective can do for and to you. However, my encounter looked different. It was a conversation between Tumishe Kuku, or as you know her, Tumishe Oladapo Kuku and Oluwatumishe Omokpeleye. One understood, one still hurt, one wanted to move forward and is moving forward. The other simply wanted to be noticed. And maybe that's what ambiguous grief or loss sometimes is. Not refusing to heal, not refusing to forgive, but discovering that a younger version of yourself or a version of yourself that went through a traumatic experience has been waiting patiently for you to finally turn around and say, I see you. So, today, I have just one invitation. Is there a younger version of you? A version of you that you have buried because you couldn't close that loop? A version of you that needs an encounter, not necessarily an answer? A version of you who doesn't need another explanation, but simply needs your acknowledgement. Today is not the day to fix it, nor is it a day to rush through it. Just see. To be honest, if you're looking for answers, you may or may not find it. That is the paradox we all have to contend with in this dimension, or like they say, on the side of eternity. So just if you're wondering how my encounter with Tumishe Omokpeleye landed, all I can say is there's still many loops I'm learning to close. Maybe that's why this won't be the last time we'll talk about grief that refuses neat endings. But for today, this is enough. This is enough for today. This one conversation, this one loop, one younger self, finally seen. Until next time, be gentle with yourself and good luck. Before I say my final goodbye for this episode, I need a small favor from you. Could you help share not just this episode, but the whole Mindfully with Tumishe experience? I would also love for you to rate the show and follow anywhere you listen to podcasts, because that gives us a little bit more visibility and we can share this healing experience with people, building an army of the healed, one podcast, one conversation at a time. Can we do that? I would deeply appreciate it. Thank you. And a special thank you to Toby, who makes producing these episodes and bringing them to you quite easy and fun. Love yourself, love your neighbor, love your country. Above all of this, love God. He is the essence of your being. I am Oluwatumishe Oladapo Kuku. Stay mindful.
This is Mindfully with Tumishe, brought to you by Black Images.